Hey guys, and welcome to the bonus episode 3 of the Teen Whisperer show, where you get to hear the stories of some amazing people to talk about marketing, business, technology, life, and whatnot. In today's episode, we have a guy who's having like 3 to 4 streams of income, partnering with other creators and entrepreneurs, and building up his YouTube brand as well, where he talks about business, entrepreneurship, marketing, etc. So make sure you go hit the subscribe button on that as well. So, guys, let's welcome Mohit Patel to the show. Mr. Patel, nice to have you on my show, man. So, please tell a little bit about
Thank
yourself
you.
and your career so far as we are doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. I'm really glad to be here, once again. And this, me being very young right now, it's always great to kind of just like bring myself like on any podcast such as this and be able to kind of share a little bit about where I am because I am young, and that's one of the big benefits that I think that I can really bring to any platform. I'm Mohit. For those of you that don't know me, like Jeffrey just said, I do have a YouTube channel that I kind of fly around, and that's primarily for like personal and professional development content geared towards young professionals across the world who know that they want to do more and that have a higher calling. So whether that's multiple streams of income, getting started in the world of business, finance, anything like that, just doing more than kind of what society tells us to. So that's kind of what my channel is geared around. I actually just graduated from good old Purdue University here in West Lafayette, Indiana, and it's been quite a ride because I actually, and definitely feel free to cut me off because I can go on and on. I feel like I have
It's
a
all right,
very
it's all right. It's kind of
very
your show right now, so you can just talk.
yeah,
It's all
I
right.
definitely feel like I have a very unique story to tell on that front because like again I am young, and because of that like there's just so much that's changed in the
Mhm.
past many years. I can't firmly say that I've been in business or I've been in a certain industry for years and years and years like many of your other guests, right? But I can say that I've done very well to adapt to change, and that's one of the biggest things I've really developed over time. So coming from high school and into college, I actually started college in video game development and design as well as animation. So very different from the
Yeah.
business field. Like this is nowhere close to starting any form of business, to starting any income sources whatsoever. But I was always very tech driven. Like
Mm.
for me, the biggest thing was that it, when I grew up playing a ton of different like media things, like whether that be video games, watching a ton of movies, like that was my jam when I was growing up, right? And I was also very introverted. So right now I'm clearly like very like opposite of where I was before. But
Yeah.
again, that kind of goes into the growth that happened. So I always knew that one day I wanted to start up my own video game development studio. So I wanted to run my own studio. I wanted to kind of go through the process of like hiring people and really just like developing a strong IP, a strong intellectual property product that can hopefully start rivaling some of these big companies out
Yeah.
there. And that's still one of my biggest goals. But the problem when I started college was I had no idea where to start. And I thought that the
Mm.
best way was to actually major in that field. Now, here's the problem with majoring in a field like game design, development, animation, as well. I was actually recording a video about this earlier today. So plugging that in, you guys can check that out. But
Yeah. Link is in the
and then
description.
yeah, exactly. And then any like pretty much any liberal arts field, education, anything like that that isn't engineering or or going into a med field or anything like that. The issue with going into these fields is that you don't have a definite stream of income when you leave college. Like if you look at
Yeah.
people in education, they're making such a small amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, you have to be very passionate about what you do, and then you also have to come to the acceptance that hey, you're not going to be making much. Now, the problem in the game industry is you're not even guaranteed a job when you leave college. So the issue, and I speak for this industry wide, this goes on not just in the games industry, but Hollywood, filmmaking, anything, is like you're having to work on this thing called your demo reel. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure how many guests you've had in the past from like entertainment or anything like
Mhm.
that, but your demo reel is essentially your resume within that
Yeah.
industry. The issue with that is that as a student, you only have 4 years to work on that, three sometimes, because you may graduate early, and that's not enough time to really define your craft. It's very, especially in games, it's very art focused. So you have to choose something like 3D modeling, like animation,
Yeah.
VFX, things like that. There's all these different paths within the game development pipeline you can choose, and you then have to specialize in becoming a master at that one thing and make your demo reel showcase that mastery. So you're not only competing with other students around you, you're competing with people in the industry. So
Mm.
people working on these high AAA level games like Call of Duty and
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed and all this big stuff. Like you're now competing with their level of art. Like your stuff has to look better for you to get hired. That's a process that's going to take years. So when you graduate, unfortunately, you will probably not. It was very common for people around me, like the seniors I knew,
Mm-hmm.
to graduate and not have a job for 2-3 years. Like many of them stayed
Oh.
on campus, worked at like a retail fast food location, and continued working on their portfolio. So that wasn't me. Like I did not want to do that. I wasn't comfortable with that. I worked on it for a good. I was originally into 3D modeling. That's what I did when I was in there. So I got a lot of technical expertise there, as well as programming in a couple different languages. So just like basic expertise. But the issue was like I have my family that's depending on me. Like I
Yeah,
also
yeah,
am. If you like, you're familiar with the American school system, is like loans are crazy.
yeah.
So I had to take out, I believe, almost 44 grand now after
Wow.
4 years of college, which in loans, which isn't too much compared to a lot of other students, because I actually got a lot of grants and scholarships. But um, the issue with that is I knew I had all these loans that I'm going to have to be paying back. I figured this out like my sophomore year. I was like, I just started thinking about this more realistically. I'm like, hold on, I'm not going to walk out with a job. So I'm going to have the student loan debt. I'm going to have credit card debt. I'm going to have debt for housing. I'm going to have all this debt just because I'm spending time without a
Yeah.
job after college. And even in college, like not being able to work as much as I wanted to and make actual money because I had to like spend so much time on like class projects that were way too long, and also your demo reel. So again, what I like to differentiate is that this is by no means bad. I think universities should certainly offer these types of majors and things like that, but I think they should definitely communicate this to a lot of students because, like, again, I have my parents like counting on me. They're getting older. My little brother, he's actually a special needs student, so he's definitely going to need my help in the future. So there were a lot of reasons why it made sense for me to really build a strong financial foundation for myself. So that was way longer than I probably wanted to talk about that. So again, feel free to cut me off if I go on a tangent. But like I said, I started from a very different place from a lot of different entrepreneurs and a lot of different individuals that are in the world of business. Like, because I come from such a strong technical background, as I always use that as my value prop too. But coming out of let's say my sophomore year, I stayed back in my college town to actually work, right? And while I was doing that, a friend of mine who was, he recently started reading a couple finance books, things like that. He recommended the book Rich Dad Poor Dad to me. So like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
That's
of
the
course.
classic, like classic book that almost everybody starts with. So that's the book that I started with. That's the book that taught me that I actually know how to read. Like that's where I realized that.
Yeah.
So I read that at work because like we had so much downtime. It was a call center, so while waiting for people to pick up, we had so much downtime. So I was like, oh yeah, what the hell? Can I swear on here? Or like,
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's definitely.
you guys have a filter? Okay, I won't go too crazy, but I just want to make
That's
sure. If not, I'll filter myself. But yeah, like I finally read that book, and when I started reading it, I finished it the same day. Like I was like, yo, this book is amazing, and it was very. I mean, it's very short. It's just more that I never found myself as invested into a topic in the world of finance until that day. Even before that, I actually started watching some Dave Ramsey videos, and that's how I realized for the first time, like I might have an interest in the world of finance, in the world of business, and just like trying to get to the next level. But I didn't know that yet. I just started realizing I had some sort of interest. So I started reading more books from Robert Kiyosaki, and then I started opening up to other influencers and looking them up and learning more about what they do. So like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Ray Dalio, just people who operate very, very different types of businesses. And I've been able to learn so much just by reading and spending a good amount of time just developing my mindset. So about 3-4 months after that, actually about 2 months after that, I came back to college for my junior year, and I started school again, moved back to Res Hall and everything. And the first thing I did was change my major. I was like, this is it. I can't stay in this program anymore. Like, I need to be practical, not only because my parents were depending on me. So I wasn't quite at the point where I wanted to get into the world of financial freedom yet, but I wanted to at least have a job, like a very good job out of college, right? And I was like, it's kind of too late to go back and become an engineer, which is what Purdue is known for. Like, I was like, I would have to do maybe another 2 years of school. And unfortunately, I was already in so much student loan debt. So I was like, I have to do something where I can finish in 2 years. It might mean I had to take a lot of credit hours every semester, but it was fine. So I ended up switching to finance in our business school. So very, very big. Like, switched all the
Total
way from
shift.
our tech school. Yeah. and here's the thing, I was heavily involved in their tech school. So I was part of their ambassadors program and part of like different clubs and organizations and president, treasurer, all these different
Mm-hmm.
things. Like, and I had to like just drop all of it and move to a school my junior year where I was brand new and I felt like a freshman where everybody else, I was a junior in
Yeah.
credits and I had a management minor. So I already had some of the core classes done, but even so, I felt like a freshman. I've never done case competitions before that, which is a huge thing in any business school. And I've never been to their career fairs. I've never just like networked within the business world. Like, so for me starting out, I was very overwhelmed, but I was driven as hell to like figure this out. Like, I was like, listen, like, I may only have 2 years to catch up on everything and graduate on time if I don't want to go into much more debt. But I also wanted to I also wanted to make sure that I walk out with the experience I needed to be able to get a really good job. So I went to a crazy amount of career fairs. I over prepared for everything. Like I can very like I like to project that confidence because like I really did work hard during those first 2 semesters that I was in the program because like I knew how much of a disadvantage I was comparative with all these other students.
Yeah.
And let's say maybe like 4 or 5 months later, I've had countless interviews with different companies across the board. So like, though I was in finance, I knew that like I was open to any role within the world of business because there's always something to learn. Because like once again, the goal was to start my own company. So I was interviewing for finance positions, accounting, sales. Unfortunately for accounting, I knew that I would probably need a CPA later down the line. So
Yeah.
I didn't put too much stock at that point. But sales and finance were my 2 biggest like types of roles where I was interviewing for internships at that point. So I interviewed with JP Morgan and AT&T and and Deloitte and just CDW and a ton of different companies, not only in the Midwest, but across the US because I'm pretty flexible with where I want to move. And at a certain point, I finally landed the AT&T internship. I took that, right? But around that same time, I also started to realize that, I really enjoyed the world of entrepreneurship. Like I enjoyed doing stuff outside of the business school. Like I didn't want to be like, I love going out as much as the next guy, but I didn't want to do that every single night for the rest of my life, which again, I don't want to bash corporate too much because I'm in corporate right now, but if the corporate culture, I mean, we all know what it is. And, some people can do that until they're 40 and 50 and be perfectly fine with it. I knew that wasn't me. I knew that, yes, I want to work in corporate. I like the salary, the benefits. It's amazing. They treat you really well and they're very nice. Everybody's very nice. It's just, you have to have that like almost party, like work hard, play hard mentality, right?
Yeah.
That didn't necessarily sit right with me in terms of where I wanted to go. Because again, like reading more books, and at that point in my life, like I was starting to realize like I want to leave some sort of legacy behind, and that legacy needs to be a financial legacy. So around like say October, November, like 2018, that's when I finally realized like, hey, I set the goal of like, I need to become financially free. Like this needs to happen. Like it's going to take a long time. Obviously it hasn't been too long since then, but this is where I want my life to go. Before that, I had no path. Like I knew vaguely I wanted to do an independent game development studio, but I had no end goal with that. I had no end goal with any of my ventures that I wanted to start, like any of the ideas. And that's the problem that I should backtrack. I was also in our entrepreneurial like certificate program. And I strongly believe that entrepreneurship should not have a certificate because like that doesn't make sense. I've talked to so many people with a certificate in entrepreneurship that have never started a business or worked a business or done anything with a startup. So it's like, or even consulted with a startup. So it's like, I've met so many people that have great ideas and have actually went for venture capital funding and have some people have started their businesses, and all props to them because like they're gaining so much experience, which is awesome. But often people don't understand the end goal, like where they want to take that. Like they may like, sometimes a lot of startup founders, their entire goal is to be bought out by another company and just take the cash, right? And that's great, but ultimately, like without the ability to scale, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice no matter what venture you start. And that's one area I immediately started to figure out. This was early 2019 now. So I started to figure out, hey, I want to be financially free. but I don't want to go down the same path as a lot of these other startup owners do. I as much as I believe in grunt work and doing the work, right? I also don't want to like do the work without an end goal, without knowing that there's a way to scale this
Yeah.
up, amplify my revenue. Because like business is great, you know, being passionate about something is great, but ultimately if all you have is passion and there's no money coming in, then you're going to be in the same place that I was with that game design major, and there's nothing going to be coming out of it. So excuse me, that's pretty much where I ended up early last year. From there, I finally started networking a little bit more with people that have various businesses out there in the world. So like whether that's coaching, whether it's in e-commerce, whether that's like a straight tech startup or network marketing. Like I've been able to learn about so many different types of business strategies. I attended Grant Cardone's 10X conference in 2019,
Wow.
and I've been able to, yeah, with a good friend of mine, David. So we went down to Miami. Funny story, actually. The weather was really bad. That was during. Have you heard about the polar vortex that we had?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it was it was really bad. So all flights were grounded for that exact week that we were supposed to go down to the conference. We're in the Chicagoland area. We had to go down to Miami. So we unfortunately like we couldn't fly down there. We had no other option. We decided to drive 25 hours just to get
Wow.
down there. So we were awake for, I swear, almost like 30, 35 hours. Me and my friend and his dad, like we drove down there, got a really cheap hotel, and just we brute forced it because we knew that this was an opportunity for us to really
Yeah.
network and learn more and be able to grow. Because like there's so much that we don't know. Like me and my buddy David, like there's so much that we don't know about building a business in the world of financial freedom, but that's how much we want to learn is we want to drive down there. So again, that's coming back to the whole idea is a lot of people, that's the trap that I don't want to fall into is the whole idea of being a entrepreneur. So someone that they'll read a lot, they'll watch a lot of videos, they'll get like pumped up, but they won't actually do anything with that information, right?
Yeah.
So I've been making a very strong habit of whenever I read something or watch something, or even after like doing this podcast recording, I'm going to go back and look at, okay, what could I have improved? You know, what can I do different?
Yeah.
What can I change in my life? Right. So like, that's kind of how I started approaching things ever since I attended that conference. I started putting out content. So I actually started doing daily uploads, and it was very, very, very annoying,
Yeah.
but I
It
loved
was. Yeah, I
it.
can feel that.
I loved it. I don't do daily anymore because it's not practical as like a student. I need to hire at least somebody to edit my stuff. But at that point, I was brand new. I was like, let me give this a shot. I probably did it for a good month and a half. Every single day I put out a piece of content. And it was one of the best experiences ever because now I can talk on camera without feeling that nervous. Like very, very little nervousness because of that. So it's like that's a skill set that I was able to pick up. And from that, like I started realizing that, hey, it may not be a good idea to start this game development studio right now because like there's so much capital that goes into it. As with any business, like first off, in any tech startup, like you have all the equipment, like we have to develop an IP, like an intellectual property, a game idea that's actually going to make money, to be able to hire employees, be able to pay those employees, maybe have benefits, like, and also maybe get a small office so we don't have to work out of someone's house. I mean, we can, but at the end of the day, these are all the small costs. Then there's rent and then personal living expenses. And there's so much that a lot of people won't take into account. And I have a feeling that's why a lot of business people fail. Like business people I'm referring to as young entrepreneurs. When I say business people, I want to say young entrepreneurs. I feel like that's why a lot of people fail at my age. And that's a trap that I don't want to fall into. Once again, I'm all for experience, and I encourage young entrepreneurs to go out there and go down that path if they want to, but I knew that's not the path that I wanted to go. So that finally brings me to now. So that story was very long, but I finally caught up to getting to the meat of kind of why you brought me on, because I know we had a conversation on LinkedIn, right? And I kind of introduced the idea of how I've been able to earn partnership with some entrepreneurs outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So we've actually, this was during my last semester of school here, you know, right before COVID. So in January, I started like just networking with some old friends at AT&T, and one of them introduced me to his business coach. And because of that, I've been able to earn partnership with him and the
Mhm.
rest of his team. And through that, we are essentially building. They're essentially at the point where my coach specifically, he's been
Mhm.
able to scale his business to about six figures in revenue back in undergrad, and that was 6 years ago. So
Wow.
he's been able to step away from corporate full
Mhm.
time. Like he's only doing like 20, 25 hours a week, I believe, and like he doesn't have to do anymore because he's
Yeah.
bringing enough money from his business to be able to essentially finance his life. Like he's able to essentially have the freedom to do what he wants. So if he wants to go for a run in the middle of the
Mhm.
afternoon, he totally can. Like I was like, this is great. This is the life that I want because like,
Yeah.
and I encourage all young entrepreneurs out there. Like, again, I still have so much to learn. So I want to clarify that whenever I say anything, it's not like the voice of God or anything. Like,
Yeah, it's just a kind of an
I'm
experienced, voice of experience guide.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm simply sharing just experiences from what I've gotten so far
Mhm.
because I've gotten a lot of value from not only just building my mindset over the past 2 years, but finally getting introduced to this team. Like they've had such a profound impact on me. And my coach, who's been able to pay off his student loans, I believe like 30,000 student loans in about 2 years,
Wow.
a little less than 2 years. So often people will get on a 10-year plan and they will just do the minimum payments and they'll get all the interest. A lot of people don't realize if you like really just like frugally like live for a tiny bit and you start paying this off in big lump sums, avoiding interest, you may save thousands and thousands of dollars. Like that may not seem like much, but it is. Like
Yeah.
especially if someone decides to just stay an employee and stay down the corporate route, they need to like they they need to save some of that money. That's a huge amount of money. And as someone that wants to go the startup route, I know that that's something I need to work on. So I started working on my student loan plan last week. Now that I've graduated and everything, and fortunately the grace periods have gotten extended, so I don't have to pay anything for a while because of COVID. So that's one benefit to come out of this pandemic. But kind of speaking of the pandemic, I mean, this has been like unprecedented. This kind of
Mhm.
coincides with
Yeah.
me earning partnership because I became a partner with our business team about right by my birthday, which was
Mhm.
the week before our shutdown, our
Yeah.
nationwide shutdown. So it's been unfortunate because I was only able to actually meet everybody in person once, and then all of our business events got transferred online, and then obviously school got transferred online. Right, everything's online now. Um, and I also lost my job that I was working with the university because of that, because the university shut down, so my job shut down. This job I've been at it pretty much since I was a freshman in college. So I've been
Yeah.
with them for pretty much 3.5 years up until that point. So it was really sad. And because of that, this pandemic has really just like helped to show not only me, but I'm sure countless people across the world that we really need more than one way to make an income. If
Yeah.
this isn't an eye opener, I don't know what is. Like again, this is so timely because this is a lot of what I kind of recorded in my video that I did earlier today. But a lot of people are finally seeing that wake up call and realizing that
Yeah.
they can't depend on the job because like even when this is over, and it will be over,
Mhm.
countless companies are going to lay people off, and then all these people are going to like yell at the companies. They're going to yell at the CEOs. And there is always blame on both sides. I'm not singling out the company saying they're in the right for laying people off, because like often a lot of these big companies like Amazon, et cetera, have a lot of resources. They probably could get rid of some of them and keep the employees. But again, like we can never tell. Like I always like to believe that our future in terms of finances is all in our hands. Like
Yeah.
especially here in America, like we have so many opportunities and tax laws and things that we can use ethically to be able to create actual like side revenues outside of work. And that's one thing a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people simply just don't want to take that next step. And I've seen this a lot, not just with coworkers, but with friends, with people in high
Mhm.
school, like people in college. I love having fun. I love going out. Like I've actually started to develop that kind of play hard mentality over the
Yeah.
past like year. But I also know when it's important to kind of sit down and get to work. So here, for example, it's like much like yourself. You're waking up and the first thing you do is record a podcast for your
Yeah.
brand. It's 9:30 over here. I could be at the bars, but instead I'm recording this as well. So like we
So
have
sacrifice
that
at
we
both
have
ends, I guess.
Exactly. So we both have that mentality where we know when it's time to get to work, when we know it's time to sit down and actually do something. All day today, I have not done a single thing that I actually wanted to do. I've been working on those videos. I was doing a bunch of cleaning in my apartment, and then I was organizing notes from work. I was doing unpaid overtime my first week
Yeah.
on my job. Like, and here's the thing: sometimes I can be a workaholic, so I don't, I don't preach this to anybody, but that's the thing that holds a lot of people back from really developing a strong business asset like outside of work. So kind of backtracking, because I know I've kind of been all over the place. When I've been able to earn partnership, yeah, even through the pandemic, we've fortunately been able to transition all of our business operations like perfectly over Zoom,
Mhm.
because the reality is we're e-commerce.
Yeah.
So my coaches have essentially instilled a lot of different skill sets in me, and I'm still working on them day to day, but I've been able to pick up so much in terms of budgeting, in terms of networking, as well as public speaking. So those are the three areas where I've taken away a lot of different skill sets. And along with that, they've been able to help me and are still helping me, because I'm by no means bringing in six figures in income, right? uh, they are helping me develop my own side assets, 5 different income streams.
Mm.
And these income streams are not what people would think of. People would be like, "Oh wow, Mohit, you're bringing in like 5 sources of money." Well, clearly I'm still working, so like it's not paying off yet. But that's the point. We're in the long game here. That's
Mhm.
the reality of it. I'm not super passionate about the world of e-commerce or coaching for that matter, right? So coaching other people to do the same thing and to be able to have that servant mentality where, you know, we're in this together, building up our businesses and creating revenue. But I, as much as I'm not passionate about it, I see this as a vehicle. So like
Mm.
Robert Kiyosaki and all these authors, they talk about vehicles, right?
Yes.
So you can start in any vehicle you want. You can start in stocks. You can start in real estate, right? You can go start your startup kind of right off the bat with venture capital funding. There's so many different vehicles out there, and this is the vehicle. E-commerce is the vehicle that I've chosen
Mhm.
because it's very low startup cost, and at the same time, now I'm able to earn the mindset of people who have successfully done this in the past and been able to have the lifestyle that I want to get to in the near future. So because of that, where was I? This might be one area where you might have to cut just because I lost my train of thought. But it
It's
was a
all right. It's all
very,
right.
very it was it was a very, very important thought. How am I doing so far, by the
Yeah, yeah.
way?
So you're doing great. Actually, I have this bunch of questions to ask, but you actually are answering them, before even asking. So no worries on that. You're
Yeah,
actually making me like work less. So
thank you. Yeah. No, I definitely think in like stories. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
how I, kind of approach
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And I
Experiences
usually
are
tend
great,
to,
rather than just, answering stuff. The experiences are great, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. But definitely feel free to let me know if we are coming up on time or anything like that, because I'm not actually watching my clock. I have Zoom completely full
It's all
screen
right. It's
here.
all right.
But yeah, no, they've helped me fortunately start to work on those business assets and be able to have that servant mentality. That's where I left off. Um, and because of that, like though I'm still working on, I'm not passionate about e-commerce. I'm able to use this as a vehicle to hopefully in the next 5-10 years be able to finally start that passion business of a video game development studio, because I'll not only have to I'll finally be able to step away from corporate, and I won't have to work 40 hours a week, so I can dedicate more time
Yeah.
towards my passion businesses and ideas as well as projects, right? And then also have capital coming in from my business. So that's the idea that Robert always talks about, is building a strong financial asset, because like your paycheck is not an asset. Your house is not an asset. Your rent isn't an asset. You need to have an asset. And I'm still working. I'm brand new to partnership, but I've been able to learn so much because of that. And it's been a tremendous journey so far. I'm obviously working very hard to keep this going outside of my job. For listeners that don't know, I just started my job this past week with AT&T and their B2B sales development program, and I interned with them last year. I really loved the job itself. I knew that I wanted to get very, very good at sales, because it's critical to being able to do any business successfully. So I decided to go back with a good friend of mine, David, and him and I are essentially we're trying to crush the program together. We want to place very well. It's very competitive, so we want to make sure we're doing very well. But outside of that, we I do have my YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So I'm not, of course, trying to make any money off of YouTube, because it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to monetize my content at all. My content is going out, or like me doing this podcast or like
Mhm.
anything like that. It's specifically because like I think it's important to just get our voices out there. As any entrepreneur, there's so many entrepreneurs. Elon Musk used to be like this. He's a lot
Yeah.
better about this now, but he used to be very quiet, like,
Yeah.
arguably sometimes he still is, right? He never wanted to be in the spotlight. A lot of young entrepreneurs, they just want to focus on their idea and not be in the spotlight. And that's great. Like, I'm all for not being in the spotlight. I still get very nervous all the time, but like, the reality of it is like, to truly succeed, and again, this is all about scaling. To be able to scale any business property, like, you have to be ready to be able to talk, to be able to communicate, and be able to be in the spotlight at any second, at any point in the day, right? So you have to be ready to get to that point. And unfortunately, like, again, a lot of people will start out in the world of startup culture or entrepreneurship and not really be able to develop that public speaking mentality. I still have a long way to go. This is just over Zoom. In person, I still have my fair set of issues that I'm working on, right? And that's the point. It's a journey. It's not like an end game. You're never going to be perfect at anything. So it really is about being able to develop that, and that's why I create content. It's not even so much about other people. It's for me to get better at just like
Yeah.
at speaking, and just like creating content for almost a year now. I would say that I've gone tremendously better, where I can carry on an intelligent conversation, both in the business world and like in the friend world and anything like that. It's just like I can have these like deep level conversations and really be able to pinpoint things in people's lives that they can change, and be able to help them through that. So that's where the coaching mentality
Yeah.
comes in. And sometimes I could be a little a little aggressive about the coaching mentality, and kind of like get a little too crazy with that with close friends and stuff like that if I see things they shouldn't be doing. But it's important
Yeah,
to have a
it's like
cutoff,
being a mom, all of a sudden, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Or with my little brother, or even my own parents. Like, I would say
Mhm.
that I'm very far ahead now in the world of
Yeah.
finance than like my parents are, and I see things that they do with their finances. I'm like, Mom, you should not be doing this. So it's like, again, not bad. I love my parents, but like, it's just like, there's so much that you're gonna learn on this journey. It's important to like always have that cutoff with like
Mhm.
close friends and family, and not let that affect your relationships. Because like, yes, you may be spending less time with like certain people. I mean, that's the reality of it. But I don't believe like you should just get rid of everybody from your life that, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
say if you have like toxic parents, or like friends that may not be like friends that maybe just want to go out and drink like every night. It's not bad. I mean, they're a fun time, like every once in a while. If you like, there are nights where I really need that. So always keep people around and really develop those friendships, because you never know who can open a door. Even one of your friends who's probably a huge party person right now
Mhm.
could be like making 6-7 figures in revenue from a
Yeah.
side business in like 5-10 years. So like, you never know where people can go in their life. So I never like to cut anything off. um but yeah, like that's kind of where I am in the world of entrepreneurship right now. Again, I'm very young and I'm learning so much. I by no means am making a crap ton of money, right, from my side hustles, but it's very important, I guess, like to narrow it down to what I'm doing. I have the job, right? I'm developing my sales skill set, really building out, trying to build out that business asset on the side to eventually be able to step away from corporate, but that's going to be playing the long game, and then use that money to be able to not only help other people get to where I will be hopefully in the future, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to pursue some of my passion projects like that game development studio, or anything else that I may want to start in the near future. I've never actually thought about nonprofit up until these past couple of weeks. I started thinking about nonprofits because a lot of people on our business team do nonprofits on the
Yeah.
side. So like, the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, this might actually be really cool, because there's so many people in need across the
Yeah.
world, and that's only going to continue to increase as your population increases. So like, again, these are small ideas here and there that normally someone would not be able to explore off just like job income. So it's important to be able to
Mhm.
just keep those in the back of your mind and work on a business asset, even if you're not passionate about it, and then use that revenue to be able to explore other things that you actually care about later down the line. And also, this is not only, you're going to grow so much on that journey. So I've grown a lot in the past 2 years. I still have a long way to go, right? But I've been able to just my mentality and like the way I approach every single day. I no longer sleep in. I used to sleep in every weekend. Like, I don't do that anymore. Like, and that's solely not because like there are times when, okay, maybe sometimes I will, but like, I really don't want to. A lot of the times I want to get up. I want to start getting going. I want to start working on things. I want to get in the gym. Like, there's so much that I want to do now because I finally developed that, like, just that entrepreneurial mentality of like wanting to do more and create value for people around me as well as value for yourself. You're always going to keep growing through that process. And then finally you're it's going to create a lot of value for your future family. So whether people want to have kids or not, or, you know, get married or not, like, whoever you're going to come into contact with later is going to benefit from being around you and just like talking to you and just interacting with you. And in the family sense, it's going to leave a strong legacy behind for your kids. It's really just going to create a powerful legacy, not just like financial, but just relationship wise, because you'll be an all around better human being and better, hopefully, father figure, mother figure, anything like that
Yeah.
in the process. So yeah, it's been a fun journey so far. That's all I have on the
Wow.
story end of things. I probably talked for a lot. I still
Yeah.
have a long way to go, and
Mm-hmm.
some of my coworkers actually have a little bit more experience in terms of stocks and investing. So I'm actually kind of picking their brains over the next couple of weeks and trying to learn a little bit more on that end. But
Wow, that's really good. And think of stocks. I mean, like, I actually I don't know why, but I actually kind of hate stock market. I don't know why. It's just that it's not actually just about stocks or doing analysis and stuff. It's actually people mind games. Literally, it's kind of mind game. Because many people will do analysis like this bank or this company will go on like do $100 million next year, anything like that. But even after the next day of the analysis, the company may shut down as a whole because of someone did some fraud or anything like that.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think that's something that's actually totally hated. And actually, the ironic thing is that I hate stock market, but the client that I'm doing editing for is actually a guy who works in stock market. So
oh
still,
wow,
you see, it's kind of really ironic, when something you don't want so badly, you still get that. It's kind of that. And
yeah,
touching some of the things that you said about schooling and stuff, and yeah, I should like it because if many schools and many organizations, many how to say, universities actually say
yeah,
the truth how you are going to do after you are once you graduate or anything, they never say it. They just sugarcoat everything like this going to be like this, life is going to be like this. It's not okay. We have seen it in many movies, like how actually it's going to be end up after that, life and stuff. And yeah, I think that's great. And just two things that I wanted to ask you from what you're saying so
yeah.
far. So first is, it's kind of out of the box podcast question. You said you were playing like gaming industry, like Call of Duty and everything and stuff. So what's your favorite favorite game or version of Call of Duty? So
Favorite.
yeah, favorite version, like Modern Warfare or World at War,
Yeah,
which one?
so I actually don't play as many shooters. I have played
Uh-huh.
all the Call of Duties, but I don't prefer to play them. I will answer what is my favorite game though. Like that, I can definitely speak to because yes, I do a lot of gaming on the side. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
I can't do too much now.
Yeah.
But like whenever so there'll be periods where I have a lot of free time and I'll like play like crazy. But then there'll be like many months where I'll stop playing. So it's like
Hmm.
it's really interesting. But so I'm kind of behind in a sense, but. My favorite franchises are like the Batman series, which has
Yeah.
we've never seen a new game for years, and then Assassin's Creed. So
Uh,
it and pretty much any Sony exclusive that you want to throw out there. So The Last of Us 2 just came out a couple weeks
mhm.
ago, and pretty much any narrative driven game. I'm actually very well cultured in the world of games, so I've played a great deal of them through the past and try to stay. Again, knowing that I'm going to end up in the industry, I try to stay updated with that. So for example, tomorrow there's that, or tomorrow from the day we're recording this, I should say, there's actually a conference from Ubisoft, one big game company, and so I'm going
Mhm.
to be watching that. So it's like I try to stay updated with things like that whenever I can, as long as they're not during work hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes during work hours, I'll put it on in the background.
Yeah, sometimes my brother actually does this sometimes because whenever the meeting goes on, he's actually working in a software company in Abu Dhabi actually. So when he
Oh,
actually
cool.
a meeting goes on, what he actually does is that he will talk, he will finish the session. After that, he'll just put on mute and turn off his video, and he will actually come and talk to us. I mean, like, dude, what are you doing? The meeting is going on. They were talking some stuff about their interest. I mean, like, it's like I was really wondering,
That's
if
awesome.
if I actually talk, will that actually the same person do the same thing if I talk in a meeting? So yeah, actually the thing. And my actually version of COD is actually Modern Warfare, and all of Modern Warfare,
Nice.
because there will be
They
guys
just
is
released
called,
the remasters.
yeah, remastered version. They was released it, of course. And I just love this guy called Raul Menendez. Okay, actually, one of
Oh
my
yeah.
Instagram handles, my personal Instagram handle, I actually have a name as Jeffrey Menendez. That's why actually I have named it as well.
I'll
So I really love the name
have to
because
call you that from now on.
yeah, because he will run, right? There'll be an episode where he just runs like Menendez, and he will just running on to kill him or something like that. That's actually a totally like a different sort of experience, I think, for gaming industries. Yeah, I think, and yeah,
Yep,
because like you're mentioning that it's actually really hard to get and kind of tough to get a job in gaming industry right after graduation. I mean, like I've seen people
100%.
when it comes to animation and everything and stuff, it's really hard because you have to have a really good, even in the case of advertising, that's how it matters. Because I actually do some video edits, and when my clients ask me like, do you have a portfolio? I said that I will show you my portfolio, but other than that, just tell me what to do. I'll do a test
Yeah,
run, then we can
yeah,
go on that. Because I can literally copy any kind of design, when it comes to editing, I can literally copy that. I can do that, okay? Literally copy any kind of design and present to them. So instead of showing my portfolio, I said, what do you want? Just let me know what you want. If I can
exactly.
provide that, then we can go forward, or else we don't. So that's how it always goes.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. One thing I wanted to add in there, if you don't mind, just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Go
figured
ahead.
it might be helpful to talk about is I wanted to clarify that it's by no means bad to want to go into one of these fields, right?
Yeah.
And to be okay with the structure of the industry, because the reality of it is that there's so many people that already have parents that
Mhm.
are well off, like parents that are they don't have any student loans, like
Yeah.
they probably don't have to worry about debt after college, like, and for them it's perfectly fine to go explore those passion projects because
Yeah.
they're able to. In fact, a lot of the people I knew when I was in that department here at school were perfectly fine financially. Like that's why they were so okay with it, but I wasn't. Like that's what I started to realize. It just took me a while to realize that. So that's one thing that a lot of people could just keep in the back of their mind
Mhm.
is like never rule this stuff out, like because these majors are very helpful, like education for example, very helpful for
Yeah.
society, right? So like understand that, like in my case, like when I have kids, like I will give them the option of whether they want to go to college or not, but also
Yeah.
hopefully not spoil them, right? But also just help have them understand that they can explore whatever major, whatever path they want, and know that they'll be fine financially as long as they're willing to work hard and really make it to be able to explore their passions.
Yeah, yeah, I really agree on that. And it's really hard to get that option. That's what the major
Yeah,
thing goes. It's a kind of really hard to get that option. And you either have to have a really good background or something like that. But sometimes it's good, to give up on your dreams for a while and work on, yourself, and then get the things. And
yeah,
because many people do that because they don't actually, like you said, anonymous, they keep quiet. But one of the reasons why actually I always wanted to be on the spotlight, I don't know why, because, uh, you know, I actually came onto this show, doing this everything and all because I saw someone like Gary Vaynerchuk or Simon Sinek, those people doing,
yep,
in spotlight and saying this things like so that could change the entire world. So maybe I just want to be the guy, who will change the entire world by, in emotion sort of way, not in a like product based or service based, because that can anyway can run off because in this COVID, everything and stuff, uncertainty. So
exactly.
yeah, I think the in the emotional way, I think that's how I want to change the whole world. And just a second observation, from you is that you said you went to Grand Cardon's, this 10x conference meeting and
10x
everything and stuff.
conference. Yep.
Yeah. So how do you actually do the networking there? Because you just go there and talk to people and everything and stuff. Because it's kind of really hard when
Yeah.
when you go straight to the person to talk, they would obviously think that this guy is coming to do a sales. He's going to coming to do an invitation call or anything like that. So how do you actually do that?
So this is actually a very broad topic, and I'll try to be as narrow as I can,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I've only been to the one, so I actually haven't been to 2020's conference. I
Mm-hmm.
should have, because I didn't, because I had a vacation plan, but then COVID happened, so the vacation got canceled. So I should have went to the conference in Las
Yeah.
Vegas. I messed up, but anyway, like what's funny is I actually do better at networking at things like that
Mm-hmm.
versus in corporate, which is really,
Oh,
really weird. But
yeah.
I think there's a couple of things that can be said there, and this might help to answer your question, is that in corporate, no one wants to be there. No one
Mm-hmm.
wants to be at work. Like I don't want to be at work either. Like so it's like no one really wants to get to know you. Like they may,
Mm-hmm.
but outside of work, during happy hour, during things
Yeah.
like that. Like it's very difficult to network in the corporate environment because everybody's just trying to do their own thing. They're trying to get paid. Like
Mm-hmm.
very rarely will you have those enthusiastic conversations with people, and you're always going to be judged constantly, and that's unavoidable, and that's one of the parts I don't like about corporate. But Then you're at something like a 10X conference where you have people, there's so much money in that room. It's funny because like there's there's so much more money in that room than in any corporate office if you don't count the CEO and things
Yeah.
like that. But like what these people are also so much less judgmental. Like they willingly want to get to know you. And a lot of that also maybe has to do with maybe they want to do business with you, people want to recruit you, things like that. But there's nothing inherently bad about that because everybody is there and they know that they're there to share their business propositions, see what other people are working on, and to be able to learn. It's a learning community. And that's one of the things I've appreciated about Grant's conference. And I'm going to try to go next year. And I very much hope that this COVID stuff doesn't get in the way of them hosting it in 2021, right? But that's one thing I would encourage people to keep in mind if you're going to these conferences. I've only been to the one, and I was a lot younger than I am now. That was 2 years ago, and I was also maybe not necessarily 2 years, like a year and a half ago. But I I wasn't necessarily in the networking space that I am now, like skill wise, but I was still like that. That's how comfortable I was even back then, just because you feel comfortable around these people. Like, yeah, everybody looks good, and it feels like you're in corporate, but at the same time everybody's so approachable and like, yeah, they might have a pitch, you might have a pitch, but I mean, at the end of the day, like you're just learning from each other. That's what everybody's there for, is to grow their business and to grow their mindset and skill set. And that's one of the best parts about a conference like this. So yeah, I would encourage people, go in with an open mind. Don't be afraid to talk to people. I have a lot of people I've met there that I added on Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that I still keep up with. And there's just so much you can learn. Again, walking away, what I was telling one of my friends recently is like, the 10X conference isn't even about the conference. Like, it's not about the education. Like that, it's literally the same stuff every year. Like, no offense to Grant Cardone and all the speakers he brings up. Actually, I really like the speakers. They're great to pump you up, and there's some useful information in there. But you are paying for the experience. You're paying to be able to be in the same room as, I think, well, it was 35,000 people when I went, and I think they lowered that this year. But you're paying to be in the same room with thousands of people. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the networking. So take advantage of that. Don't be afraid of that. That's what everybody's there for. That's what you paid for.
Yeah, but and the speakers he brings actually really great. Ty Lopez, Russell Brunson. I actually, was had the option to watch it after it got over. We got after like 6 months, I think so. On the internet, and obviously I can't go to Miami right away. It's actually really impossible on that. So actually, it was really great. How Russell Brunson actually talked about the ClickFunnels and how we got everything and stuff. And the one thing is, I think, in India, the main problem is that we have networking events like this, but not like in every place, mostly metropolitan cities like this, having some meetups or small meetups and everything like that. But the major thing here is like, there'll be heavy judgment, when it comes to like, not even in like, not like, other countries, because we are not accustomed to, business. Like being a business guy, it's totally different from, what you perceive in other countries than in our country right away. So I can totally relate on that. So that's one more question. Out of the box, I always ask my guests that who was the last person that you made smile today?
That I made smile today. It was actually my buddy David that I keep bringing up throughout this call, because he was actually on a hiking trip all day, and he apparently was doing something pretty dangerous just so he does like a vlogging channel. So he's more on the entertainer side of entrepreneurship. But like, he was purposely doing some more dangerous hiking stuff so like he can vlog all of it. And then he was texting me about how like scared he was and all this stuff, and I was like sending him a bunch of jokes. I'm like, dude, if you don't do it, like you don't deserve to be on YouTube, things like that. So it's like it's the small things like that. And to your point, I really like that question, because it's nice because you're able to see like whether someone is actually impacting people. Like that's the thing. Like, I don't know if that was the intention there, but that's the point of, like, in my mind, of being able to answer that question quickly, is like, I make people smile like all day. That's like, I always like to say, like, I'm a positive influence. That's what my channel is all about. It's to like inspire people to do more. And anytime I talk to people, like, I'm in a very different space now from where I was 4 years ago. Like, I now go into every conversation with the intention of like, even if it's like I have a question or I'm trying to figure something out, I never want to make the other person feel bad for having to like interact with me, or to interact with, say, if like I'm interacting with someone that you probably got more in this answer than you bargained for, but say if I'm interacting with someone that doesn't want to go the startup route, they don't want to like build a strong business asset, they just want to work and retire, right? I don't want to make them feel bad for doing that, because like some people are perfectly fine with that. And like, though I have my opinions on it, who am I to like to judge them? Because it's all about my journey. It's about where I want to go, right? And ultimately it's about where they want to go. And like, if I can be a resource for them, great. If not, then no problem at all. So that's why I think it's important to always go into every conversation, make the other person smile, and also just like keep everything on a positive note.
Yeah, actually, and actually, that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to ask the question is that if you could answer that question right away, then trust me, you are really enjoying your life, because that's what my one of the
Yeah.
podcasts I want to show people is that yesterday I was having this conversation podcast with a guy called Scott. So what he actually was, he asked the podcast name called Entrepreneurs Can Party. So that's the name of the podcast itself. And actually, I wondered, like, I was asking him, like, how many parties did he go to and everything and stuff. I was asking him, and he always said that life is a party. Like, you have to enjoy every single moment, even if it's a
Yep.
bad, even if it's a really bad stuff, you still have to enjoy it, so that you can actually enjoy the good stuff really great, more than you actually probably enjoy it. So yeah, I think
Exactly.
so. Sometimes it's really hard for me to answer. I ask this question a lot, but it's really hard for me to answer, because sometimes I just turn off the whole world. Like, I won't take my phone off. I just work on that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
6 to 8 hours. You know that when it comes to
Yeah.
work and stuff,
Exactly.
and it's actually really hard. But that's actually really great. I think your friend David's, please send his YouTube channel link also. I will just definitely give that description
Oh,
also,
I
because
definitely will.
you
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
you actually talk really great about him. It's really great to have a
Yeah.
friend
He'd
like that.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to have a friend like that. It's not easy to when
Thank
you
you.
have someone to talk about on to someone else. It's like, I have a friend like this to that, and yeah, I totally opinions on
Yeah.
that. So that's really great. That's really great. So just one final thing, before closing, is that what do you actually think that you would give the best tip? Actually, you gave a lot of tips, from your experience so far. I can say that, but out of all the experience, the one thing that you commonly like gone through, like, okay, so you actually, that the one thing which made you through that all this journey, like, to not giving up and everything and stuff. The best tip that you can provide for others in order to follow their journey, and like follow their dreams, their passion, and everything. So what tip would you give?
I would say the best tip is to do it. Like that's all I'm gonna
Let's do
say.
it.
I'm kidding. No, I'll expand on it just a tiny
Yeah,
bit. The when I say this, so I've actually been running into this a lot recently. Like, I want to do something, but then I'll like
Mhm.
say no, and I'll like
Yeah.
I'm very 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 like, how do I put this? Like, I write everything down. Like,
Mhm.
I'm very like technical about things. So like I write all down, like my to-do list and my calendar and all that stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I'll put things on my to-do list, and even if they're like entertainment things or like things
Yeah.
like that, I'll write them down, but then I'll like get rid of things because I'll think that I can't do them or I can't
Yeah.
fit them in, right? Things like that. But then I'll add them back, and then I'll keep
Mhm.
doing one or the other. I still run into this, so I'm not perfect yet. But the one thing I've realized over the past couple months, specifically ever since COVID started, now that I had so much more time, and I say
Mhm.
that in past tense because I just started my job, but like, it's that when I actually like choose to finally go through with something and finish something, I feel a ton better. I feel more positive. I feel like I've accomplished something. And I think that just goes more towards like being a true entrepreneur in life, not just in the world of business. Like, you want to be able to like say like, yes, I can do everything I want to do, because that's the goal of like being an entrepreneur. Yes,
Yeah.
financial freedom is a byproduct of that, but it's like Gary Vee, actually, I think I listened to one of his podcasts recently, and he was
Mhm.
saying like his ultimate goal is to, well, one, to also die without, where
Yeah.
he's left such a big impact, but he also wants to be able to do everything at
Mhm.
any time that he wants to do it. And that's one of my biggest things, is I want to be able to do what I want to do whenever I want to do it. And like, that's not an entitlement thing. That's like working hard to earn that. Like, you
Mhm.
have to earn that. Like, that's the thing, is like, I've earned like certain things in my life so far. I have not earned certain things in my life so far. Right. So like, it's the whole idea of just like being able to like understand that if you want to do something, just do it. Like,
Yeah.
also have some self-control, but like, and so if it comes to personal things, but I mean this in a broad sense. So this could
Mhm.
be in business, in life, in relationships, in food, like literally anything. Like just just do it. Don't get rid of things for the sake of definitely like understand how to prioritize
Yeah.
time, but figure out a way to make things work, because that's how a true entrepreneur thinks, and that's what I'm still working on day to day, but I'm getting a lot
Mhm.
better at that. The fact that I can say all this now means that I finally realized this and I'm finally putting that into action in my life. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I mean, like, yeah, people actually think a lot, before it's just what's going to happen, everything and consequence. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm guilty of this as well. It's not easy to actually do it right away. But still, I think if you just just do it like you said, obviously you can just
I actually recommend a
Mhm.
book, the 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I think
Mhm.
you might have heard of that, but for any viewers that haven't, that's pretty much exactly what I'm talking about. The 5 Second Rule is an excellent mindset builder there.
Obviously, so I'll try to get the link for that as well. In order to
Yeah,
so that anyone can get this into it. So guys, as you can see that we have discussed a lot of things, and thanks to him, actually, he actually reduced my job nonetheless, because there are lots of things that he discussed,
I can do
about
that.
e-commerce, yeah, e-commerce and coaching and everything and stuff, and he has a really really great journey now. Everyone must be thinking like that, sometimes listening to big guys will actually make you really work a lot, yeah, there's a 50% chance to it. But if you listen to someone that's actually doing right now rather than someone who's achieved it, then trust me, it will instigate you more than what you're actually doing.
It's motivating.
So yeah, so guys, you should definitely listen to this. And is there anything else you want to ask me?
I think that's it. I mean, I guess I do have one question for you,
Yeah.
because I've listened to plenty of your podcasts before getting on
Wow.
this as
Thanks.
well. But I also wanted to kind of, yeah, I really love what you're doing, because I would say you're about my age. I'm assuming,
Yeah.
but it's like you're definitely in a space where you're like, I mean, I can see your background right now. Like you're being very intentional about the way you set things up. You're bringing on all these guests. I aspire to get to like
Mhm.
that point. I think that you're doing a very good job of handling your podcast and the idea of content creation, because you're very attentive to detail. But yeah, what's the whole idea of like why you got into the space of content creation in the first place? Just like a quick overview,
Mhm.
because I think that can also add to this conversation
Yeah.
and help to motivate listeners.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And I have to say this is actually the toughest question that I ever face in any podcast. How did it actually start? Because I don't know. Actually, there wasn't any particular intention, like how to actually go on with all that. But one thing I had in mind when I started is that I just loved hearing people's stories. Okay, I really, really love to know how they actually started and how they actually right there right now. So it was really great. But the other thing I wanted is that some people will ask permission to do things. Like you said, say just do it. People will ask like, their friends or their families. So should I do this? Should I do that? So if there is someone online, just like you, started what you want to do and ended up being successful in that, so if we see that, and you can, set yourself a permission that if he has done that exactly in my position, then I can do that as well. So I actually seen many people who are exactly in a position like having a middle class background and doing a lot of stuff, earning money and everything and stuff. If they can do that, so can I. So if someone sees me and do that as well, so that's actually the whole background, like to give permission to people that there is someone just like you doing great things. So you can do that as well. I mean, like, yeah, everyone is unique, but being in a position of like financial or everything and that, and yeah, I think I've been a little bit successful on that because I've had some people actually ask me to review their podcast, like how to actually do
Nice.
it, and I think I was really astonished because I mean I'm not a really great kind of that stuff, but still I know a little bit about how to push in podcast and everything and stuff, especially by interviewing many guests on a podcast, and some people are asking me about what are the tools and techniques you use and everything and stuff. So if even one people ask you like what's the tip that you want to give, what's the tools that you suggest, if one people ask you that in your Instagram DM or anywhere, trust me, you literally have won. You have won the game. So i think
Exactly.
I think that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to do the podcast. And I really love people, getting people on because there's no like, great return, like no one would ask you for money to be on your show. So
Yeah.
it's like just having good chat. I mean, like what you across all across the whole globe. Why would want to chat? In the in your night time and me in the morning time. So I think that's a great thing about podcast as well. So yeah, I think I kind of sum up my whole story, but I think that's it. It's really, really tough, when someone asks me that. I've said it two to three times, but still I really mumble a lot. It's like how to
No,
actually
that's fine.
frame that.
It's important to be concise, but from what I've learned so far, it's also important to know when to go on a tangent
Hmm.
and be able to, but also bring that tangent back. And that's what I've really appreciated about not just talking with you right now,
Yeah,
but the podcasts I've listened from you in the past, is that you're very good at bringing things back. And I think that that's incredibly valuable. Like, you're humble, and that's why I continue to listen to your podcast, because like oftentimes a lot of podcasters, they lose that, and that's
yeah.
something that I don't want to lose as I start growing my business
Mhm.
journey. So
Yeah, and I really agree on that, man. And thanks so much for coming out to the podcast. And guys, that we actually discussed a lot of things, like I
yeah,
said before. And I'll give every link in the every timestamp below. So in order to you want to jump on a particular space, you can go on to that. I don't know how many timestamps that I'm going to put, because we have discussed a lots of stuff about from even from starting to schooling, and from e-commerce and everything and stuff. Just one quick question, just an yes or no question, is that, is drop shipping actually dead? Because people always ask this, is drop shipping e-commerce? Just a yes or no
yeah.
question would be great.
I would actually say that they're two separate things. So there's so many different definitions of what e-commerce is. So you can totally be on the fence of like,
Hmm.
you can be utilizing an existing platform,
Yeah,
like say network marketing, for example, or you can also be like someone that's like creating an e-commerce platform from scratch, utilizing say another company's products or even your own products, and you're creating a sales funnel, or click funnels, right?
yeah.
Like, you're creating everything from scratch, or you're using something that's already been created. So like, I feel like there's such a broad spectrum of e-commerce. It's no wonder why everybody wants to get started in
Yeah.
that space. But here's the thing, is that there's no right way to start something. That's what I'm
Hmm.
realizing right now with stocks, real estate, e-commerce, or like straight up drop shipping. Like, there's no right way, because like, again, it's all about the vehicle. If you work at anything long enough, it's
Hmm.
going to create some return for you as long as you're doing it right. So like, I encourage everybody that's interested in drop shipping to keep that in mind when they're looking
Hmm.
at different e-commerce opportunities, to just really understand that it really doesn't matter like what form of it you use, as long as it's hopefully ethical, right?
Hmm.
But also, as long as that you're putting your all into it and understanding that it's probably going to be the long game. It's going to take maybe 5-6 years before you see
Yeah.
anything, but as long as you keep putting in the work, you're going to see something.
Wow, wow, that's true. That's true. It's because many advertising will always at start is saying that, is drop shipping dead? I mean, like, why is it dead? I mean, like,
It's
why does
not.
any business
Everybody's doing
yeah,
it.
everyone is doing that? So I was actually astonished by that. So yeah, I think we actually come to the end of the podcast. So guys, I actually did a closing three times, but still we haven't been able to close it, because there's lots of things to discuss. With him, it's really awesome. So I will give a link in the description, so you can connect with him on LinkedIn and Instagram and everywhere he's available. So you can go and ask him any questions on that. And I would be happy to answer any of questions if you guys have. I'll definitely direct it to him if it's not possible for me to answer about e-commerce. I have no idea about, so you can ask him and everything and stuff. And thanks so much for listening. And thank you, Mohit, for coming on to the show. It's really awesome, man. And thanks for reducing my work again. I can't say this
Thank you for
enough.
having me.
Yeah. So thanks so much for listening, and see you guys next podcast.